Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, all sorts of good things. And joining me here today, ladies and gentlemen, is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing well. You know, it's the first week of summer, and things seem on the up and up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and we're at a point right now where we've got and we're going to be talking about this today, we got Fast 9 opening up in theaters, a movie I really didn't like, but I know a lot of people are excited to get out there and see this big spectacle movie. We got Black Widows coming to theaters, sort of. It's also going direct to streaming, but we'll talk about that in a bit too, and a whole bunch of other things. And guys, we do have a bunch of things to talk about here today, so here's how today's show is going to go. We break today's show into two parts. The first half of the show, we're going to discuss some predetermined topics. And then the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you'd like to get a live comment or question on the show or in an upcoming companion video, simply use the tip link that's in the description of this video. You can click on it there, or you could enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's, of course, appropriate for the show. And, of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. By the way, just off the top, I mentioned this isn't the official off the top, but a little bit later today, don't forget we have our Loki Episode 3 open spoiler discussion. That'll be at 4 p.m. LA time. For some reference, right now it's 10 a.m. LA time. So in 6 hours, we're going to be doing the open spoiler discussion. A lot to talk about. But I'm not going to lie to you guys, I did not like the episode. I think there's a lot to break down and discuss why. It is, to me, how many episodes did WandaVision have? Was it 10? 10 or 11?
I think it was 9. Actually.
9? Okay, let's say 9. Out of the 9 WandaVision episodes, the 6 Falcon Winter Soldiers, that gets us to 15, and the other 2 Loki, 17. Out of the previous 17 episodes, this was my least favorite of all the Disney Plus TV episodes. Again, no spoilers, not going to discuss it right now. We'll save that for the spoiler discussion. But I really, as much as I have loved the first 2 episodes, I really did not like this third episode. I don't know, Rob, you had a chance to see it. Just quick thoughts. What were your thoughts on that third episode?
It wasn't my favorite, John. I was actually a little disappointed that I don't think after 2, I thought, very intriguing episodes, this kind of was treading water and the tone seemed very different. And we talked about the relationship between our 2 characters, felt like it was from a different movie.
Yeah.
And, or a different thing. And I was a little perplexed and underwhelmed, which disappointed me.
Yeah. Now, again, still a lot to talk about as far as it goes. So we'll discuss that in the Loki open spoiler discussion for episode 3 a little bit later today. Keep your guys' eyes open for that. And we hope you come to join us for that. Okay, guys, we're going to start things off here today with an off the top. And that off the top is this. You know, Rob, Indiana Jones 5, the fake Hollywood news machine keeps telling us they're making this movie. I have doubted it for years. No, they're obviously on set and shooting the movie and making it. But even when they started shooting it, I said, I don't know, man. I still have this weird feeling in my gut that we're never going to see this movie. I mean, they're making it. They're clearly making it. And then wake up this morning, Rob, to hear that, oh, look, where have we heard this song before? Harrison Ford injured while shooting a movie. Now, of course, for those of you who don't remember, back during the shooting for Star Wars The Force Awakens, Harrison Ford got in a freak accident on set where a door of the Millennium Falcon fell on him and it broke his leg or something like that. And then he was filming a different movie and he crashed a plane that he was flying. And by the way, how tough of a son of a bitch is Harrison Ford? He's crashed 2 planes, had the Millennium Falcon try to kill him, and he's still walking around. Anyway, well, now, while they're doing their shooting for Indiana Jones 5, he has apparently hurt himself during a fight scene rehearsal. A fight scene rehearsal. First of all, Harrison Ford is 78 years old. You don't just put a stand-in for him in the fight scenes. You get a stand-in for him in the fight scene rehearsal. But anyway, he has hurt his shoulder. So he is going to be out of commission. They're not saying for how long, but the initial reports right now is that he's going to be out of commission for a few weeks. So, of course, what they're going to do is James Mangold and his team, they are rejiggering the shooting schedule to try to get a bunch of stuff, a bunch of scenes that don't have Harrison Ford in it. They're going to redo the schedule to get those scenes shot over the next couple of weeks. And right now they're saying, Rob, that there's no plans to change that summer of 22 release date. So they're still saying this is coming out about a year from now. They're saying they don't expect this to affect things too much. Now, obviously, Harrison Ford, man, he is in, for a 78-year-old dude, he is in ridiculous shape. Like absolutely ridiculously good shape. So I even, you hear most a 78-year-old guy, Rob, getting an injury like that, you're thinking, well, it's going to take them a lot longer than normal to recover. A guy in the shape of Harrison Ford, I expect he'll bounce back probably pretty quick and be back on scene. But again, Rob, to me, it was just like, where have we heard this song before? And here, Rob, you heard about this. Do you think they're just being optimistic right now about them? Oh, we're still going to be, this isn't going to affect our shooting too much. We're still going to be hit our release date. Or do you think this will just be a little bit of a bump in the road for them?
I think it probably sounds like a bit of a bump in the road. I mean, I obviously I don't know. I have no real information about this other than what I read in Variety this morning. But it didn't sound like life-threatening or too serious. But then again, at his age, recovering from injuries can take a lot longer than expected. And so it was a little concerning. I mean, at least he didn't break his leg when a door from the Millennium Falcon fell on him.
Yeah.
No.
There was at least that. That they had that one little saving grace there. Anyway, the question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Harrison Ford once again gets injured, whether it's by plane crash or door crash or now fight scene rehearsal. It's thrown their schedule off a little bit. Do you think won't be a problem? He'll recover quickly, kind of like I do. Do you think that maybe this might force them to bump their release date again? Doesn't look like it right now. What are you guys thinking? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them. Whenever you come across a big topic, issue, or story that you think we need to have as a main topic here in the John Campea Show, just go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit. And then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Gary Johnson, who writes, "Hey, John, been a big fan of your show since Civil War Review. Well, thank you so much for that. This morning, I was on the AMC app getting ready to buy tickets to see Fast 9. And I noticed that the auditorium was about 65% full and there were no X's. Now, an X on these booking apps means that they're reserving those seats to stay empty for social distancing and theater capacity. But the theater was already 65% full and there were no X's. Every seat was available for purchase. Is this officially the end of the limited seating capacity? And if it is, how do you feel about it?" All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. Now, listen, of course, one of the big things that the movie theaters did when it came to reopening during the pandemic was they had a lot of different safety protocols, but one of those safety protocols was they limited theater capacity. Now, whether they chose to do it or not is kind of relevant because there was also laws being put into place that required them to only have certain percentage, whether sometimes it was 50% seating capacity, sometimes it was 30% seating capacity, whatever. But we're all used to seeing screens like this when we've been trying to book, seats in movies recently, that a bunch of these little squares would be X'd out, that you couldn't have it. Well, as we have been slowly starting to move out of the pandemic age, at least here where we live, and still our best thoughts and well wishes to all of our film-loving brothers and sisters around the world who are still in areas that are really struggling with this. But here, as we've been moving into a post-pandemic world slowly, the changes have started to be made, including seating capacities. Now, this gets sent in to us by Variety, who writes, In addition, capacity restrictions are no longer, now at least this is in California, Rob. In addition,
Right.
capacity restrictions are no longer in force at theaters, restaurants, conferences, meetings, and other indoor events that are under 5,000 people. However, many theaters and restaurants are not immediately ready to reopen at full capacity and may take several weeks to ramp up capacity. Removing California's capacity restrictions could give another lift to the post-pandemic box office since the state has the largest amounts of theaters in the United States. So yes, the reality is we now live in a spot. Rob, I jumped on, I was on my AMC app the other day looking up tickets for a particular show, and lo and behold, it was all wide open, fully wide open. The seats are there. You can get them. You're ready to go. Now, as far as how do I feel about them moving to full capacity, is it time? I will say this. While if it was me, I would probably keep the limited capacity, because I'll be honest with you, Rob, the limited capacity has really not seemed to affect anything lately. At least
Right.
lately. Of course, we're moving now into Fast 9 and Black Widow coming out, so that could be different.
Yeah.
But I probably would have had limited, like theaters open, but with limited capacity for a few more weeks. But honestly, I have no objection. I'm like, oh, you know what? No, look, Rob, the reality is this. I looked up California's COVID numbers again. As early as February in California, we were recording up to 11,000 new cases of COVID per day. Just in February, like back in earlier than that, like a month or two before that, we were getting 40,000 new cases a day. But our 7-day average right now is hovering around the 800 mark. So, and that is with everything starting to reopen again. Our most of our fellow citizens have been doing the responsible things, getting vaccinated. We've seen vaccination numbers going really up, all that kind of stuff. And we are in a much better place. And so while if it was up to me, maybe I would have waited a few more weeks to, lift all the restrictions, but I also don't object. I think the numbers and the data bear it out that we are good to at least try sticking our feet in the water again and going to full capacity. And guess what? If we start to see spikes in the pandemic again, we can always pull back again. But for right now, I feel pretty good about it, and let's see how it goes. Especially great for the theater industry with films like Fast 9 coming out and with films like Black Widow coming out, asterisks. I think it's a good time to do it. Rob, you see this. How do you feel about them, opening the restrictions? What are the benefits? And do you think maybe it was a little premature?
Well, I think, look, opening up back to normal, especially in California where our cases are down, there are other places that isn't the case. But because a lot of us are vaccinated, it's tamping down the variant, although the variants are out there and they're growing. But I think for the most part, we've got to come out of this pandemic. It's putting people to work. It's getting people out of their houses. I think it's a good thing as long as it remains safe. I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't think you have a problem, even though we're vaccinated, wearing masks. I really don't. And I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good as long as we see these numbers staying down and that there's not a new surge of anything. But I'm excited. I'm excited people are going out to the movies, that Hollywood is opening up again, that the industry, and again, this is to say, because we cover the movie industry and I love movies, I still want everything to be safe. I want everybody to be safe. And as long as this is happening it's not at the expense of anyone's health, I think we're doing good, at least here in California.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Rob. Do you think, look, I've heard this discussion online over the past couple of days, and I have certainly my take on it, but I want to hear yours. There's been some suggestion that California is rushing the lifting restrictions. Because remember, the restrictions have not just been lifted in theaters. They've also been lifted to events, indoor events, also to restaurants. So it's not like it's just the movie theater industry, right? But I have heard some people saying this is Hollywood buying health policy. And it's only because Fast 9 and Black Widow are coming out and they want to make the big money. And that's why these restrictions were listed. Now, I think that's ridiculous. But Rob, you hear those complaints. Is there any validity to the complaints? Do you think Fast 9 and Black Widow coming out had anything to do with these moves?
No, I mean, look, we've got a huge slew of blockbusters coming down the pike, and I think it's so funny. A month ago, people wanted to recall Gavin Newsom for not opening up the state. There was a huge concerted effort by the Republicans to to recall him because he wasn't doing enough to open up the state. So I don't think it's just because there's these blockbuster movies coming out. I mean, I think that all our economies need to open. People need to go back to work, but we have to do it safely. I don't, everyone's so deeply cynical. Look, I just believe in people want to make money. At the end of the day, all it's ever about is money, which means it's about people not just being able to pay for their food and being able to pay for their families and what they need, but also just living life. And you need money to do that. And we can't live on the dole forever, as they would say in the UK. We need to get our economy running again. We can't be borrowing more money. We can't be printing more dollar bills to get us through. We need our economies to open, but we need to open them up safely and methodically. And, the movie theaters have not been shown as being a cause of any kind of a super spreader event, and people are still aware. I don't think everybody's just going to suddenly throw off their masks and not clean things anymore. So I think it's I'm hoping it's going to be good, John. I might be eating my words in 2 or 3 months, but I hope not to. I hope it goes well.
All right, guys, the question is for you. How do you feel about this? Theaters are going back to they are now back to full capacity, right in time for arguably 2 of the biggest films to come out in this post-pandemic era. Is it the right time? Do you feel nervous? How are you feeling about going back to the theaters? I've been back to the theaters about 10, 11, 12 times already. I love going back, but how are you guys feeling about it? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Juan Torres, who writes, "Hi, John. Fan since the AMC days. Thank you so much, Juan. With F9 opening this weekend and Black Widow opening in 2 weeks, which film do you think will cross the $100 million opening weekend mark first during the post-COVID era? Or which other film do you think will cross it first?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Juan Torres. And listen, really, in asking the question, which movie will cross the $100 million opening weekend mark first, F9 or Black Widow, what you're really asking is, will F9 make $100 million opening weekend or not? Because it's obviously opening before Black Widow. So obviously it has a little bit of a leg up, and that is the big question. Can a movie right now, Rob, obviously, under normal circumstances, asking the question, can Fast and the Furious 9 make $100 million opening weekend? Obviously. I mean, that's not even a serious question. Obviously it does, but these aren't normal times. Yes, we are in recovery. Yes, as we just discussed, the theaters are now at full capacity, at least in many areas. There's still some areas where it's not, but for a lot of areas it is. And this is not a normal set of circumstances for a Fast and the Furious movie to be opening. So while on the surface, asking can it make $100 million sounds like a ridiculous question, it really isn't. So then you start looking at these 2 big movies. Which one of these will actually do better with their opening weekends? And I'm not sure, but this comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who write the following. According to Box Office Pro, Black Widow is projected to have an opening weekend total of between 65 million to 90 million. F9 is currently projected to open in the range between 50 and 70, which I think these are numbers that might surprise some people, with the projected number being 62 million. The prediction puts F9 3 million below Black Widow's lowest estimation and would give Black Widow the top grossing opening weekend since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Rob, we have seen some good opening numbers during this, recovery phase. Obviously, Godzilla versus Kong, kind of came bursting out of the gate. Everybody was excited about those numbers. A Quiet Place 2 had really impressive opening numbers. So we've seen some good things. But if both Fast 9 and Black Widow hold course, we are going to see that trajectory continue to go up, that we're going to get these bigger releases now with bigger opening weekend numbers. Still nowhere near where they would be in a pre-pandemic world. I mean, the concept that either Black Widow or F9 would open below $100 million is ludicrous, let alone both of them, but it looks like they are. Now, Rob, projections are saying Black Widow. Now, Black Widow will make more money opening weekend, which is interesting because out of the two films, Black Widow is the one that's also offering a ridiculous dumb home release idea for $30 to pay at home. And so that's going to take away some of the box office as well, but they're still projecting that it's going to do more, hence the power of the Marvel name. But Rob, the Fast and the Furious name is an extremely powerful name in the movie business as well. So Rob, let me just kind of put it to you flat. Which of these two movies are going to have the better opening weekend? They're projecting Black Widow, but the projections are sometimes wrong. Is it going to be Fast 9 or is it going to be Black Widow? And why? The floor is yours.
Well, John, Fast 9 has made already just shy of 300 million opening in Asia and the Middle East, which is not bad. But I think that the word of mouth is not as strong on F9 as it could be. And we've heard there's been some pretty good reactions to Black Widow. I've heard a little mixed, but I just think, man, I got to tell you, I think Black Widow is gonna be the movie that really gets people to theaters because I think it, like, obviously Fast 9 has the Fast saga has a pretty broad appeal. I'm a huge fan of it until this movie, but I think there's a lot of people that are waiting for it. But I do think that Black Widow, I mean, look, Black Widow has 7-year-old girls who are probably begging their mothers to take them to see this movie. And I think that should not be discounted because, in the Marvel universe, you got a strong female protagonist and her film has been a long time coming. I think a lot of people want to see this movie. The movie looks terrific. It looks really exciting. They're pushing the heck out of it, advertising-wise, marketing-wise. I think Black Widow is going to take it. But they're not opening the same weekend, though.
No, they're a couple weeks. No, they're a couple weekends apart.
A couple weeks apart. But it'll be interesting to see where we're at. And I have a feeling about Black Widow, John. I think it's going to be pretty big. Pretty huge. Not to say Fast 9, but I think, look, Fast 9, I'm one of the most dyed-in-the-wool Fast and Furious fans there are, and it let me down. So I think I think the movie itself, the fact that they embraced the meme nature of the movie, they just decided to, well, everyone thinks this series is goofy. Let's show them how goofy we can be. Let's escape the bonds of reality. Let's escape the gravity of the planet Earth and the physics and any kind of semblance of reality, which they do in Fast 9, and I think that's actually going to hurt the film.
Let me ask you this.
So,
right now, they're projecting both of these big franchise films to open to under 100 million, which is not terribly surprising given the events and the circumstances we live in right now. But do you think that's going to hold? Do you foresee either one of these movies cracking the 100 million opening mark? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think they could. Either one of these movies has that potential. It really depends how many theaters are open by the time obviously, look, if our numbers continue to go down, there might be, 2 weeks could be a big difference in terms of theater capacity in this country. So maybe so, or it could go the other direction. And if there's a spike in the variants and things like that, and more people come down with COVID, then they might, Black Widow might be hurt by that. So it's hard to say, but right now, I think my money is on Black Widow to break 100 million. But then again, I think that Fast 9 might too.
Right now,
depending on how many go.
I think it should be said though that as far as in terms of theater capacity, there's enough theater capacity already that if $100 million worth of people want to go to the theater to see it, I think there's enough theater capacity there to sustain that right now. Maybe not 200 million or 300 million, but I think there's enough for that right now. So we'll see. I'm going to differ. I'm going to agree with you that I think Black Widow will probably have the bigger opening weekend. But I'm going to disagree with you that I don't think either will crack 100 million opening weekend. I certainly hope it does, because that would be great signs for other movies to come a little bit later on. The question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Which of these two big movies that we have opening up within a few weeks of each other? We got F9, we've got Black Widow. These are the biggest releases we've had so far in this, transitioning into a post-COVID era. Which one do you think will have the bigger entrance, F9 or Black Widow? And a secondary question for you guys, Do you think either of them will crack the $100 million mark? It would be great if they did. I don't think they will, but we'll find out. Whatever it is you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Connor. And Connor writes, "Greetings, John and crew. Love the show. Thank you so much, man. It has been revealed by Paramount that the next Transformers movie will be called Transformers Rise of the Beasts and has a June 24th, 2022 release date, which is crazy. Rob, that's 1 year from now. That's
I know.
1 year from now. So about a year. What do you think of this news? And bring on the filthy." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, we've known for a while that Paramount has been targeting doing more Transformers movies. I mean, go back 4 or 5 years, Rob, when they did the big Transformers. Remember, they did that big Transformers writer's room where they got,
Right.
I think they had Steven S. DeKnight and Steven Spielberg, and they brought in like 20 of these the creators, and they plotted things out. So listen, we knew they're going to do more. And with the positive public reaction resurgence to the Transformers brand because of Bumblebee, which Bumblebee was fantastic. Because of that resurgence in approval, they felt emboldened by that. But we've really been sitting around waiting for what they were going to do. Now we know what they're going to do. It's Transformers Rise of the Beasts. This comes to us from the folks over at Cinema Blend who write, "This title was announced at a Transformers virtual event with producers Lorenzo de Bonaventura, by the way, nice guy, revealing that Transformers Rise of the Beasts, i.e. the movie that Creed 2's Stephen Caple Jr. was hired to direct, will bring in the Beast Wars mythology. The Predacons, Maximals, and Terracons will all appear in Rise of the Beasts, which will primarily be set in 1994 Brooklyn, New York, although there will be some action in Peru. Regarding why the next Transformers movie is pulling from the Beast Wars canon, Lorenzo de Bonaventura stated that it felt like the prior movies had exhausted the Autobot versus Decepticon conflict, and he and other creative minds wanted to show different tribes of Transformers. It was also announced that Optimus Prime and Bumblebee will both appear in Rise of the Beasts." And by the way, Rampage Predacon sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Rampage. All right. So we've got this new movie coming, whatever. Look, you guys know I grew up as a massive Transformers nerd, right? I mean, not only did I have every toy, I would cut up the boxes they came in and put the character figure and their power bar meter up on my bedroom wall. I clearly did not have a lot of ladies coming into my bedroom at the time. So I would put that stuff up on my wall. I love them. I love the first Transformers movie that Michael Bay did. I will defend that movie all day. I hated every single other Transformers movie Bay did. And then along came Bumblebee, loved it, re-sparked my passion for it again. And I've been looking forward to seeing another Transformers movie. But this notion that, we've exhausted the Autobots and Decepticons thing. It's like, dude, you barely scratched the surface of the Autobots and the Decepticons. You barely scratched the surface. And you did so with a bunch of absolutely crappy movies. And if you're worried about that, reboot the franchise. And by the way, if you're doing it in 1994, you may not want to call it a reboot, but it's obviously a form of a reboot. Because, I mean, obviously doing 1994, a lot of things contradict with other movies. It's fine, whatever. Here's my worry, Rob. My worry is you have had a hard time showing us that you can deliver a quality movie consistently with just Autobots and Decepticons that, again, you barely scratched the surface of either of those two groups. And now you're going to just dump in, let's throw in Maximals and all these, let's throw in all these things. Let's throw in Beast Wars too. And let's throw in this and that. And like, I'm not going to lie to you, Rob. I'm going to hope for the best. I am going to hope for the best. This sounds like a disaster. It sounds like a complete disaster waiting to happen. Now, there have been other movies that look like recipes for complete disasters that when they came out, I ended up loving them. And hopefully that'll be the case here. Hopefully I'll keep my fingers crossed that'll be the case here. But I don't know, man. Listen to this thing and to know that it's coming out in just 1 year. Again, you're going to have to forgive me if I feel a little bit pessimistic. As pro Transformers as I am, you have to forgive me if I feel a little bit pessimistic. Bringing Steve Caple Jr. on board, I thought he did a nice job with Creed 2. Creed 2, to me, Rob, wasn't as good as the first one. But,
No.
but I mean, he's no, it's not like, it's not like, though, that he doesn't have chops. I thought the second film was quite good. I thought he did a really nice job with it. So that's nice. That's a good thing. But again, nothing else about this thing sounds confidence-inducing. I don't know, Rob, am I being overly pessimistic here? You hear about all this. What do you think about it?
Well, gosh, overly pessimistic, John. It's not like we're looking at the gold standard of cinematic excellence and storytelling. I mean, the franchise has been very all hit and miss about all these things. I mean, I don't know about the later mythology of all of it, but it just, I mean, I feel like everything else, it's been a little soulless, and I think what it needs is, I mean, this direction it doesn't seem like it's got a lot of heart in it. I could be wrong, but I would like to see it restored to the luster. I mean, I like the first one and I like the last one, because they had heart.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, ultimately the whole franchise, it goes back to me, it's like the Iron Giant, you go back to like that and it's man and machine and all of that kind of relationship. That's the core of it all. Because your human characters are just as important in order to make the movies grounded, and you have to have feeling in them. And I think that's where they're going to live or die.
Yeah, again, and I loved Bumblebee, man. I was so I was encouraged when we found out Travis Knight was directing Bumblebee, because he had a really a small track record, but a really good track record. And I love the way you put that. He brought heart. Like, I thought that first Transformers movie had heart. I thought Bumblebee absolutely had heart. Everything else in between was utter drivel garbage.
Dude, like, I love my kaiju movies. I love my giant robot fighting movies and all that. And I am a staunch defender of the last 45 minutes of Dark of the Moon, because as an effects sequence, a long-term effect sequence with urban mayhem, it's pretty unparalleled. But, the first film still had the idea of a boy in his sentient car that is also a transforming robot. And I think that kind of worked. And it's a way to get into the films. But, there's a lot of people that the Transformers themselves are the star of the movies. They don't need human beings at all. But if that's the case, you still have to anthropomorphize them. You still have to give them the emotional content in order to make the films palatable, that have resonance. And I thought Bumblebee, like you said, Travis Knight did a great job of bringing that heart to the franchise.
And
I think that's how those movies work.
He did it by applying the KISS method, right? The keep it simple, stupid. Because in Bumblebee, we didn't have, 65 Transformers. We had Bumblebee, we had the 2 Decepticons. Optimus makes a little appearance at the end. Obviously, there's that great opening Cybertron sequence, but really, for the most part, there were 3 Transformers in it. Not that you have to follow that formula at all, I'm saying, but now it just seems like Lorenzo de Bonaventura, who is great, by the way, is saying, let's just throw everything in there. Let's just throw it all in there and let's just go. But let me be clear. There have been other projects that I felt were going to be complete disasters, and I ended up loving them. So here we go. Let's see if Steve Caple can do well. By the way, we got Sam P and RM send in super chat badges in the live chat. Thanks for the support, guys. Appreciate that very much. So let's see how we're good. Listen, as long as you got a capable director in the director's chair, a lot of good things can happen, and they do have a capable director here. So let's see how it goes. Question is for you guys. What do you make of this news? I'm a little bit pessimistic about it. I ain't going to lie, but I'm going to hope for the best. Maybe you love the news. Maybe you think it's fantastic. Maybe you think it's terrible. Whatever it is you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions today, shall we? And once again, if you want to send in a live comment or question to be read here on the show or in today's later companion video, simply go on over to the description of this video. You're going to see a tip link. Click on that, or you could enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show, of course, if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you're supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us involved here at the show, thank you guys for that support. Okay, let's jump into it here, shall we? And we're going to get things kicked off here with Ryan Lohner, who writes, the best part about this whole Batman is a cunning linguist thing is that I guarantee you more people have heard about it now than they would have if DC had just let it happen. I mean, that's true, but it also, you and I never would have heard about it unless the Harley Quinn showrunner decided to share that. And the funny thing is, he shared that story to illustrate how supportive DC has been of him and allowing him to get away with everything. And he said the only thing they didn't let us do was this one thing. So you and I never would have heard about it at all if he hadn't told the story. So, I mean, there's that. All right.
Nope.
Next. Yep.
But we're better men that we have, John.
But now we have. John D'Amato writes, one of two. Hey, John. How was your trip to Vegas this weekend? My trip to Vegas was not only outrageously fun, but extremely profitable. Thank you for asking. I hope you had a great time. Your recent dealings with Disneyland remind me of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jingle All the Way when the department store Santas tried to sell him a fake Turbo Man doll. That's a movie we haven't talked about in a while, Jingle All the Way. That's good. Now, look, as far as my experience at Disneyland, we've talked about it ad nauseum. There's no need for me to go over it all again. You guys know exactly my feelings on that and what happened there, but whatever. But yeah, Jingle, bonus points to you, John, for bringing Jingle All the Way. Anyway, my wife and I decided to watch Jingle All the Way and The Hangover in your honor this weekend. Yeah, because Rob, somebody was asking me the other day, my favorite Vegas movie, right? Now, obviously there are some great dramas and things like that and whatever, but when I had to stop and think about it, I had to say, actually, you know what? I think it may go back to that comedy. I think it might be The Hangover. That actually might be my favorite Vegas movie. It's just because being a Vegas movie also means like Vegas becomes a part of the entire texture. It can't just be that's where the movie takes place. Vegas itself has to be a part of the movie. And for me, Hangover was that. And, you know, let's not worry about Hangover 2 and 3. But that first Hangover movie, man, just caught me so by surprise, and I was so delighted by it. And obviously, I love going to Vegas a lot, so it was that. But Rob, if I had to put it to you and say, what was your favorite Vegas movie, what would you say?
Well, when I was a little kid, I'd probably say Diamonds Are Forever. But they don't even say the words Las Vegas in it. But as I got older, I'll tell you another favorite, it's kind of obscure, a Mark Hamill movie that he made after Star Wars called Corvette Summer.
Oh, yeah.
Which predominantly takes place in Las Vegas. I love that. But I have to say that my favorite Las Vegas movie, well, it might be Leaving Las Vegas, even though Nicolas Cage drinks himself to death. But I love that movie. It's got to be Ocean's 11.
Oh, that's a good one. 11. Ocean's 11.
I know it's modern. It's not either that or actually there's two, John. Bugsy with Annette Bening and Warren Beatty, which is about the founding of Las Vegas, even though that's not because it's Vegas isn't there yet. But yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of movies I like. Ocean's 11 and Leaving Las Vegas are probably my favorites.
All right, next up. We've got trade Ben Simmons, who writes, our 6'10" point guard passed up an open dunk under the rim after attempting 4 shots all of Game 7. Help me understand. Listen, Ben, I don't know what to tell you. I watched that game too, and it's funny, before the game even started, the commentators were talking about, a lot of people don't even think they should be starting Ben Simmons. And if you think you're struggling to understand, imagine poor coach Doc Rivers. I saw the post-game interview with Doc Rivers, and he was just, I have no idea. I mean, but that dude it's all in that dude's head. There is something in that guy's head that they got to fix because he's way too talented to be playing like that. Anyway, Derek Dorita writes, hey, John and Rob, Just wanted to say thank you for what you guys do. Well, thank you so much for that, Derek. I had surgery to remove a large tumor from my back and shoulder area. Oh, man. And listen to your show through it and help me keep calm. I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys. Oh, dude, thank you so much for saying that. That is truly an honor. You honor us, my friend. And I hope the surgery went well. I mean, you're here commenting, so I trust that means it at least went fairly well. Thank you for being there. May you have a quick and speedy recovery. And dude, again, you honor us by letting us be in that room with you while that was going on. So quick recovery to you, my friend. I hope you're back up and up to speed 100% much, much sooner rather than later. And thanks for sharing that, Derek. Appreciate that, man. All right, next up, Willow writes, you mentioned a little while back that you watch How It Should Have Ended. Yeah, I used to watch those all the time. I still watch them from time to time. For me, I prefer their older videos where they commit to one. I am so glad you're saying this, where they commit to one alternate ending than the newer ones, which have multiple different endings that I don't find as funny. I've never heard anybody else articulate that before, Willow. I agree. Because Rob, I don't know, did you ever watch like the How It Should Have Ended videos?
Yes.
I love
them.
They're funny. They're real funny. But I agree with Willow. It feels lately, the last while, when you tune in, it's like they present 20 different little endings. And I don't find that nearly as entertaining. I liked it when they just had one and they put all their best ideas into that one and they made the one and it was great. And I actually think I slowed down on how many of their videos I watch because they started just throwing in, like, here's every single idea we had, and they put it in rather than just refining it down to their one best idea. And so, again, I'm not crap talking them. I think they're still very, very good. But I've never heard anybody else articulate it, Willow, and you just put your finger on it. That's probably why I don't watch it as much as I used to. So, good observation. Thank you for that, Willow. All right, next up. K West writes, one of two. I would love to see a showdown between The Rock and John Cena in the next Fast and the Furious movie. It would be hilarious and epic to see them fight on the big screen, given the fact that they have faced off before in WWE at WrestleMania 28 and 29. They can get WWE involved with the marketing for this movie and have them market it as an epic rematch on the big screen between Cena and The Rock. LOL. Well, I mean, listen, obviously, once they announced that John Cena was going to be in a Fast and the Furious movie, obviously a lot of the comparisons between, well, the fact that The Rock and John Cena, The Rock came back to the WWE to have these big epic conflicts with John Cena, and those were some of the biggest things they had done. That all came up a lot. Do you do an entire movie for one novel gimmick fight scene between two guys who were professional wrestlers and they had a thing there? Rob, before watching Fast 9, I would have said no. But after watching Fast 9, I don't think there's anything, no matter how cheaply gimmicky or whatever, that they wouldn't do. So, hey, listen. It looked for a while that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was just going to do the Hobbs and Shaw movies and he would never be in F9 again because obviously him and Vin Diesel had a massive falling out. But Vin Diesel and him started to exchange positive messages on social media. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was when Rock got married again. I think Vin Diesel sent out like a positive social message saying, hey, congratulations on your wedding. Then The Rock sent something positive back out. So it's got a lot of people, maybe The Rock will appear in like a Fast 10 or something like that. And maybe something like this can happen. I don't know, Rob, if you're a producer of the Fast and Furious franchise and you're presented the opportunity to say, hey, let's have The Rock and John Cena in it and let's have them have some big fight in it to kind of mimic what happened in WWE. Do you do that or do you avoid it?
Dude, you look at the fight and They Live and you're like, we're going to do a fight twice as long as this fight. and you have to do that. Yeah, I think you're morally obligated and you've got to make it one of the great, your baseline should be making it one of the great fight scenes in all of cinema history. And make it, I mean, look, but again, that's a tall order now in the Fast of. You know what? It should be in space, John. It should be in zero gravity at the ISS, the International Space Station, where they kick the shit out of each other, and eventually they damage the station so much it starts plunging back to Earth, and then they figure out a way to parachute out of the burning space station, and they still fight in midair as they're parachuting down. And then after they land in the ocean, they're still fighting. They make it onto a beach and they're still fighting, and make the fight last an entire day.
You know what you're
Why
describing?
not?
You're describing a Peter Griffin versus the giant chicken fight in Family Guy that they do all the time.
There you go.
Here's the one problem, though. I love Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel's got a special place in my heart, always will. But Vin Diesel will never let the big marquee fight not be him in a Fast and the Furious movie. You know that.
Probably not.
Which I think is part of the friction that him and Dwayne Johnson had. But I mean, it would be interesting. By the way, Mark Valblaw, but I love the fight you're describing. Mark Valblaw sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thanks for sending that in, man. I appreciate that. Okay. Next up, we've got, who we got? We got Nathan, who writes, "Hey, John, I wanted to thank you for recommending that I watch Queen of Katwe. Love that movie. I actually had never heard of the movie before you mentioned it to me. It was a good movie, and I do love it. I really love how they did the end credits in the film with the actors standing next to the real-life person that they played. I'm surprised. I've never seen a film do that before. I've seen it done before. I can't remember exactly where, but I've seen it done before where you know what movie they did it on, Rob? Where they had the actors in the movie in the credits posing beside the real-life people? The Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale film Fighter. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had I think they had the real people in the post credits, and I think it showed them I could be wrong about that, but listen, I know a lot of people have never seen Queen of Katwe. It was a very small little film. Lupita Nyong'o stars in it. David Oyelowo stars in it as well. It is a beautiful, heartwarming, smile-inducing, just wonderful, lifts the soul kind of movie. I adore it. If you haven't seen it, do give it a chance. It's called Queen of Katwe. All right. Next up, thanks for writing that in, Nathan. I'm glad you checked it out. Diego writes, "Hey, John, I know we all, well, most, want Emily Blunt to play Sue Storm, but do you think Emilia Clarke would be a good fit for Sue? She has been cast in Secret Invasion, and wouldn't that be a great place to introduce the character? They're not going to introduce Fast and the Four. They're not going to introduce Fantastic Four characters, I don't believe, in something else like that. But again, it's an ex-actor in X-role question. There's no way to know if Emilia Clarke would be a good fit for Sue Storm because we don't know how they're writing Sue Storm. Again, Rob, I use this as an example. I use Joker as my example, right? Because do I think Jack Nicholson would have been a good choice to play Joker in The Dark Knight? Probably not. The way they wrote that Joker, I don't think Jack would have been a good fit. Do I think, Heath Ledger would have been a good casting choice to play Joker in Tim Burton's Batman? No. The way that Joker was written, Heath Ledger wouldn't have been a good fit for it. So you can't just say, is Emilia Clarke a good fit for Sue Storm? We have no idea how they're going to write Sue Storm. I will say this, Rob, I am not currently a big fan of Emilia Clarke. I love her in Game of Thrones. I haven't really been impressed by her in anything else I've seen her in since. Not that she's bad, but I haven't been overly impressed with anything else I've seen her in since. So yeah, I just don't know what to say. Rob, let me ask you this about Emilia Clarke. Forget the Sue Storm part because we don't know how that character's written. How do you feel about Emilia Clarke right now? Again, I love her in Game of Thrones, but I haven't been tremendously impressed by her in other stuff yet. How do you feel about her right now?
Well, I feel the same way, but there is this crime thriller that she's in where she's playing this kind of a trailer trash woman that gets involved with an FBI agent who's coming to go after drug dealers. I forget the name of the movie. It's a new movie. And she looks pretty great in that. And everyone said that she is really good in that. And I would like to see, I'd like to see that film before I pass all judgment. But I don't think she's had a feature role that's really suited her talents yet. They're trying to make her a romantic lead, and then they're trying to have her do other things. And it looked like if she's going more the character actor route, that looks like maybe that's her forte. But I don't know. I mean, I have to see more.
Yeah, because I didn't like her in that Terminator movie. I thought she was pretty good. She was okay in Solo. She wasn't bad in that one that she did. I keep forgetting the name of the kid who was in Hunger Games, but she was in that one, like Me Before You or You Before Me, one of that. She wasn't bad in that. Again, so I'm not negative on Emilia Clarke. Don't misinterpret me. I'm not negative on her. I'm just like, I think the jury's still out. So anyway, we'll see. All right, next up, we've got Matt Torres who writes, hey, John, loving Loki so far, but one thing worries me. Now, this came in, just so you know, this came in before the new episode aired today, okay? So this question came in before the episode aired. So Matt Torres writes in, he tips in like $20, which thank you for supporting our channel at that level. Hey, John, loving Loki so far, but one thing worries me. If the TVA is not what it seems, is Marvel in danger of leaning on this trope too much? The good agency turning bad, S.H.I.E.L.D., then S.W.O.R.D. and WandaVision, then potentially the TVA now? Well, I mean, you got to remember, S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.W.O.R.D. didn't turn bad. It's that they had some bad things that even the organization as a whole wasn't really aware of going on. It's not like the organization in and of itself was an evil organization. You know, S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't know that they had been infiltrated. S.W.O.R.D. all thought they were doing things by the book. It's just that the guy who was leading it's a dick. I still contend that he wasn't evil, but he was a dick. So I think that would be different with the TVA. I think that would be a different thing with the TVA right now. So I think it would be the first time, like if we find out that the TVA in and of itself is a nefarious organization doing all sorts of evil, it would really kind of be the first time in the MCU that they've done that, I think. So, because again, I don't equate that with the S.H.I.E.L.D. and the S.H.I.E.L.D. and the S.W.O.R.D. aspect of that. At least that's my take on it right now, Matt. That's my take on it right now. All right, next up. Just Love writes, you are so wholesome. Well, I don't know that I'm wholesome, but I will take the kind words anyway. Just Love, thank you for that, dude. I appreciate the kind words, man. All right, next up. Jesse writes, I can't remember where we talked about this, but with the Flash costume teasers and now Keaton on set, have you seen the teaser of his bat suit with blood on it? If so, do you think the blood symbolizes anything? Maybe he's a killer, or with his blood, or will it be his blood on it? That's like that. Yeah. So Rob, going back to that one thing they know. Now it wasn't a picture of Michael Keaton in the Batman suit with blood on it. They just put out a bat symbol, and there was a blood thing on it. That could be just purely symbolic that, a Batman lost his way. Rob, there are still people saying that they don't believe Michael Keaton is playing Bruce Wayne, but that he's actually playing Thomas Wayne, which, I mean, would be kind of consistent with Flashpoint, but I think he's actually playing Bruce. So either it means, Batman, has gone full vengeance or whatever. I don't know. Or again, it could just be purely symbolic, and it doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to see him in the suit, although I have been told we're going to see him in the suit. Rob, when you saw that image of the bat symbol there with blood on it, did you have any interpretations come to mind as to what that might mean?
Well, other than fighting bad guys that you had to mess up, no. I mean, Batman is not somebody. He's not a guy that is beyond smashing someone in the face with his fist, which means blood can splatter. I think when you see that, it just tells you that stuff is going down. Stuff is going down.
It's getting violent. I like that interpretation. Yeah. Okay, next up, we've got T-Rod, who writes, so I remember so many people asking you if you would have old Collider friends on. You adamantly said no. You like your small 3-person crew. That being said, I love Dennis and Rob together, and the 2-person thing, what changed? Well, nothing changed. You gotta understand, Dennis and I have been working together long before I ever even worked with AMC. Like, Dennis and I have been doing work together ever since, like, I was still doing the movie blog. Like, just a quick background thing here. When I came to LA initially, and I was doing the movie blog, we started broadcasting and working with this company called Now Live. And they had a big studio right in the heart of Hollywood by Hollywood and Highland. And their vice president of production was this guy named Dennis Zen. And so he started working with me on producing my show. And Dennis and I have worked together ever since. And we became friends. We stayed friends that whole time. And, when I went to AMC theaters, and they hired me to start running things over there. The only person I went out and actively tried to recruit and hire, like everybody else came and applied to me, the one guy that I was like, this is a guy we've got to go out and get. Whatever it is we have to do, we have to get this guy, and that was Dennis Zen. And we went out and got Dennis, and Dennis came to AMC to start working with me, and then he and I continued to work together for a long time. But yeah, like Dennis isn't one of the Collider guys, even though he was there at Collider. Dennis and I go way before that. Like he and I have known each other a very, very long time. And yeah, he will always be kind of that exception because, again, he's not an AMC era guy. He's not a Collider era guy. He was way before that. Way, way, way before that. So nothing has changed, T-Rod. Nothing has changed. All right, next up. Sam Weiser Gamgee writes, guys, Heights has too narrow of a targeted audience. Hamilton had a story. In the Heights had barely. No conflict. Lottery as an antagonist. 2 hours of a one-note rap song that never ends. Then again, I'm not their demographic. Bring on Tony and Maria. Again, Samwise, none of that gives any explanation as to why it didn't have a good opening weekend. You would have to go and see the movie to know any of the stuff that you just said. But the marketing, that was the thing. That's why the marketing didn't appeal to me. It's like this, I don't understand what's the conflict, right? What's the main conflict of this story? Every story revolves around a conflict, Rob. You and I have talked about this. It's either man versus man, man versus self, or man versus nature, right? Or context or circumstances. And in watching in the trailers for In the Heights, never once got a set. What's the conflict? What's the story? Right. What's this about? I mean, I'm sure it's Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm sure it's going to be delightful song and dance. It's going to be great, I'm sure. But for the average movie-going audience, what was the hook? And not so beyond that, there was also no faces that anybody recognized. So nobody recognized any of the people who were going to be in it. So I personally think it came down to all marketing. And I'll tell you what, I don't think, Rob, West Side Story is going to do all that great either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to do better than In the Heights did, but I don't think West Side Story is going to do all that well. I don't know. How do you see that?
Well, I can see already the backlash. Like, why is an old Jewish white director directing this story with all of these ethnic characters in it? Even though West Side Story is a riff on Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But I mean, I think, one thing about La La Land is it was contemporary, whereas, West Side Story, it's a classical tale, but I don't know. I don't know how much appeal it has. I really want to see it because I love the original West Side Story. I grew up with it. I love the movie, and I'm hoping it's great. And it is Steven Spielberg, so
yeah.
And the songs are, I can still sing them. When you're a jet all the way to your first cigarette to your last dying day. I mean, nowadays they're like, well, do you have to say cigarette? Well, yeah, maybe you do. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited, but I don't know if it's going to do really well, John. Actually, I really don't know, because maybe it'll break through. Maybe it's just the thing people need right now, because it's a classical. It's Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers, tragic romance, longing, yearning, gangs. Maybe it's good. Maybe people will love it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, and don't misunderstand my distaste for the marketing. In the Heights is wonderful. I loved the movie. I thought it was great, but there was nothing about it that was going to hook people into theaters. I mean, it just wasn't. Anyway, all right, next up. Let's go over here to Rick Squire, who writes, John, did you get a chance to see Resorts World when you were in Vegas? I read in the Las Vegas Review-Journal that it is by far the most technologically advanced casino ever and cost $4.3 billion to build. I hope it brings prestige to the north end of the Strip where it's lacking. I randomly discovered this gem 3 months ago when I walked the Strip from Mandalay Bay to the Stratosphere. That's a long walk, and back. It looked amazing, and more so as I wasn't expecting to stumble upon it. No, I'm not going to lie to you. When I went to Vegas this past weekend, I never left the resort. I never left Caesar's Palace. We checked into Caesars, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, all I was interested in doing that weekend was eating good food and playing some good poker. That was it. It was also 114 degrees in Vegas this weekend. Like, Rob, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but me, Ann, and our friend Kaori, the three of us got into our car, drove to Vegas, and then are you ever like bake cookies or bake something in the oven, and then you open the oven to check on something, and that wall of heat comes out and hits you? Dude.
Oh, yeah.
We drove to Vegas, got there, pulled up, opened the door to the car, and that 114 degree heat just like, and I'm like, well, I'm staying inside. Now, Ann and Kaori, they went to the pool and they did all this other stuff, but yeah, man, I stayed in the hotels, but I've heard it's great. But yeah, I just stayed in Caesars, went inside Caesars and stayed there the entire time. So, but I do want to check it out because I've heard some good things about it. So maybe I will at some point. And by the way, our friend Rick W sends in a super chat badge, like a $20 super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Rick. Appreciate that very much, man. Thank you for supporting us, dude. And I love the emoji too, like the little heart thing. I appreciate that. Thanks, man. All right. Next up. We've got Scott Brown, who writes, I recommend Banshee on HBO Max. It has Anthony Starr from The Boys. It's a fantastic action series. It's kind of an homage to the 90s action and gore with surprisingly deep characters and some badass, beautiful women. This show is an absolute blast to watch. Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't somebody bring up Banshee before? I think somebody else brought up Banshee.
Yep,
Have you ever seen it? I can't remember.
I've seen some of it. I didn't catch it. It was one of those things that was on and I would watch it, but I've never sat down and spent any time with it. So you're not the first one, Scott. The fact that I didn't know it had Anthony Starr in it, that's interesting because I love him in The Boys as Homelander. So that's really interesting to know. I'll file that one away, Scott. I'll keep that one in mind. Thank you so much for the recommendation, my friend. All right, next up. We got Nathan who writes, 1 of 4. Okay, buckle in. Hey, John. I've been recently trying to consume more movies, TV shows, books, etc. in the science fiction genre. Okay, Rob, this sounds like it's going to be up your alley. In the science fiction genre. As a result, I recently decided to take your suggestion and watch your favorite TV show, Battlestar Galactica. I recently finished watching it after binge watching it over the past month. It is a fracking great show. Prior to watching it, I knew it was a beloved sci-fi show that involved intergalactic battles, but I was shocked to discover that there is so much more to this show. It's part moral/philosophical discussion, part space opera, part grand conspiracy, and part political drama that at times I think is on par with some of the best political dramas out there. Needless to say, I loved it. However, I wanted to ask you, John, out of all the TV shows that you've watched in your life, and I'm sure that's a lot of shows, what is it about Battlestar Galactica that has allowed it to claim the coveted title of John Campea's favorite TV show? All right, yeah, so my number one all-time favorite show is not the original Battlestar Galactica, with Richard Hatch, Benedict Cumberbatch, Lauren Green, all that kind of stuff, which I do adore. I adore that show, but is the remake, if you will, the Ronald D. Moore kind of re-envisioning of it, Battlestar Galactica. It is my number one all-time. I think it's the greatest show of all time. And yes, it has great, space battles and sci-fi. And oh my God, Edward James Olmos as Admiral Adama. Come on. So good. The whole cast was absolutely fantastic. I think what it was for me is you kind of nailed it. It's the mixture of the action, the sci-fi aspects, the political intrigue, the individual character development. But Rob, I think what really was the icing on the cake for me that pushed it over the edge to being like my number one favorite show of all time was the mythology. And by the way, Rob, if you go back to the original Battlestar Galactica series, that mythology of the 12 tribes and the lost tribes and the zodiac symbols and finding these worlds that are trying to point them to this myth known as Earth and all this kind of stuff, all that was in the original show as well. But they just brought it and really started to feed into it. Like even these robots
are contemplating existence and God and all this kind of stuff, and the philosophical stuff, and again, the political battles also between our heroes. Like, there are seasons, Rob, when Adama, the president and Adama, they're both like butting heads, even though they're great allies.
Oh yeah.
It's hard for me to put my finger on it, other than to say I have never seen a show, Rob, that takes all of those elements and so beautifully strung them together. It just, for me, even though the finale episode is a little iffy, the finale episode is a little iffy for a lot of people. Absolutely it is. But that journey to get there, Rob, my all-time favorite episode of television, Exodus 2, the second Exodus. To me, it's the greatest single episode of television of all time. When the fucking Battlestar Galactica enters the atmosphere, the Vipers come shooting out, and it's coming down, and you're like sitting at home on the edge of your seat going, how are they going to do this? And they're like freeing the people. Man, it's the greatest episode of television I had ever seen in my life, and that's why, to me, it's that. But I don't know, Rob, I know Battlestar Galactica isn't like your all-time favorite show, but I know you really like the show. If you had to try to put your finger on it, what makes that show so special?
Well, I think, okay, it works on a number of different levels. First of all, it works as a great science fiction show with, like you pointed out, a very engrossing mythology. But first and foremost, the characters. The characters are so great. The situation is so great, and the dire circumstances that the characters find themselves in is inherently great for drama. And the questions it's posing about the nature of humanity and what is our meaning and place in the cosmos, all of those things. But ultimately, it's the interplay between all these characters, and the villains are great, and there's so much going on, and it's really very interesting. And one of the things that I love, I'm not a very religious person, but I do like stories that have religious overtones that ask themselves the big cosmic questions. And there's a lot of that going on in Battlestar Galactica too. There's a lot of existential questions about what's happening. And it's just a heady mix. When you sit down and watch it, there's just a lot going on, and it really makes you think. And, it takes twists and turns that you don't expect. And I have to say, the end, I really was moved by the ending of the series. I thought a lot of people, it might not have ended out how people expected, but I really liked the way that the series ended. The Daybreak, especially on Blu-ray, the final episode, Daybreak, the extended episode, is even longer, and I loved it. And I really do love Battlestar Galactica.
Me too, brother. Me too. Sorry, I got a little bit excited there. All right. Next up, thanks for writing that in, Nathan. All right, next up, Ryan Lohner writes, I've long thought that if anybody from Clone Wars deserved to be called masturbatory fanfic character, it's Cad Bane. And his appearance in Bad Batch isn't exactly changing my mind. I'm calling it now. He's definitely showing up in the book of Boba Fett. Somebody else wrote into me the other day asking me if I think he'll show up in the book of Boba Fett. I'd give it a solid 30 to 40% chance. Now, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of tapped out of Bad Batch. I watched the first episode, and I actually kind of liked it. I liked the first episode of Bad Batch. And then I watched episodes 2 and 3, and I went, meh, and I tapped out. So I haven't seen the episode, but he is for those who are familiar with the expanded universe, and not everybody is, but for those who are, Cad Bane, and of course he appeared in one of the animated things as well. Cad Bane has been a popular character with that iconic hat and the whole thing. So I give it a solid 30 to 35% chance that he does show up in Book of Boba Fett. I certainly wouldn't be surprised at all, Ryan. I wouldn't be surprised at all. All right, next up. Rob W. writes, hey, John, I was in Vegas this weekend too. Nice. Kept an eye out for you, made it into Hell's Kitchen, and had the beef Wellington per your recommendation. It was superb. Hope the casinos treated you better than they did me. Oh, the casinos treated me well. The casinos treated me well. I shouldn't bring this up, but I'm going to, because it's fun. So I get out there. I played a little bit of poker, which is great. And I shared this on one of the companion videos, I think. But so Rob, here's how it works. When you go in, now I am not a big high roller. I'm not at all. I play the 1-3 table. which means small blind is $1, big blind is $3, right? It's a low stakes table. That's the poker I play because I don't go to win money. I go to have fun. But you buy in, Rob. You can buy in for up to $300. So they give you these red $5 chips, and each stack of chips, if you stack them properly, is $100 each. So I bought in for $300. So this was me on my first night there. So you see the red chips, they're worth $5 each. Each stack is worth $100. So I bought in for 3 of those. The green chips are $25 each, and then the black chips are worth $100. So I ended up walking away on night 1 up over $2,000. So
Wow.
I walked away over $2,000 up. On night 2, let me see if I can get this in here. Where is it? Night 2, I went in and I played the second night. Again, I bought in for three red stacks. I bought them for $300, and I walked away a little over $1,000 up on night 2. And then night 3 I played, and I finished up a little over $200. So when it was all said and done, I actually walked away up about $3,400. So,
Wow. Can I borrow some money?
You think I still have it? You don't think Anne saw the stack and immediately helped herself to it? Come on, man. You know how this works. But listen, now real gamblers and real high, they'll go and they'll win that much money in a single hand. I mean, so it's really not much in the grand scheme of things, but it felt so good, Rob, to go back to Vegas for the first time in over a year, to get to the poker table. And what I would play from about 11 p.m. or midnight till about 2, 3, or 4 in the afternoon the next day. So I would play like 12, 13, 14, 15-hour sessions. Go back to the room, sleep, get up, go out with Ann and Kaori, grab something to eat, do a little bit of shopping, and then 11 or midnight we'll come back around, go back to the poker tables, and go play a little bit. So it was just really fun to go back, play, and do well. It's fun to go back. It's great when you get to play a game that you enjoy and you play it well. And I'll go back to Vegas and I'll play badly, but it was nice to have a weekend where I went and I was able to play pretty well. So it was a lot of fun. So thank you for that, man. Thanks for writing that in. And I'm usually around Caesar's Palace. You can usually find me in either Caesar's Palace or Planet Hollywood. That's where I'll normally hang around those areas. Or I'll go to eat at Gordon Ramsay's Steakhouse in the Paris Hotel. There's also a steakhouse in the Paris Hotel called Mon Amiga B, which Ann and I really like to eat at as well. So those are the places when I'm in Vegas that you'll usually find me. All right. Next up, we've got Matt C. And Matt C writes, "Hey, John. I just finished the first episode of Superman and Lois. I'm really liking Superman and Lois, and I must say I quite enjoyed it. However, because I'm so accustomed to watching content via streaming, I found having to sit through commercials really impacted my viewing experience. To the point where, despite the fact that I honestly did enjoy the first episode, the commercials were such a buzzkill. I'd rather just wait until the entire first season is out on a streaming network. Have you ever had a similar experience? Thanks." Rob, this is becoming a thing, actually. That a lot of us now, with a lot of the shows we watch, whether it's Loki or whether it's, one of the Netflix series or whatever, or another HBO Max series, we are becoming really accustomed to not having commercials. And now watching something with commercials can be a little bit jarring. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I do when I go to bed is I need something on in the background just so my mind doesn't start racing. So like I'll put on like an HGTV show called Love It or List It. I like that show, whatever. So I'll put it on Hulu, no commercials. I'll put it on Hulu and just have the volume really low, and I'll watch a minute of it and then let myself fall asleep. And then it stops after the episode's done. Well, apparently now that show, as of just about a week ago, that show is no longer available on Hulu's plan. So I had to load it up when I went to bed last night. I had to load it up on YouTube TV and watch it on that. But guess what? There are commercials. And I found every time a commercial would play, it would jar me a little bit. I don't know. It is weird because, Rob, we are now entering the first generation of people who are accustomed to watching TV shows without commercials. Right. And it's weird. Now, I'm going to tell you, other than that one experience, like now when I watch Superman and Lois on the CW app afterwards or whatever, or on YouTube TV, a commercial break honestly doesn't bother me that much. It doesn't jar me too much, but I do notice it now. I do notice it. Not enough that would make me not want to watch the show. That's me. I'll still watch the show, no problem. But I know, Rob, how are you feeling about that?
Bruh, I just watched the entirety of Cruel Summer on Hulu. and the amount of commercials and all of that during the show, really at some point I was ready to pick up my screen and throw it across the room. I was so angry.
you don't have the no ads plan. You're not on the no ads plan.
Apparently not.
I am completely on the no ads plan.
I'm going to get the no ads plan because I wanted to kill myself. I actually wanted to kill myself after the final episode of the show, but the ads were I mean, people talked about, I didn't know anything about Cruel Summer. I saw a trailer for it, just started watching it. I thought it was very compelling until I thought that it really betrayed the whole series at the end, but whatever. You know, some people liked it a lot, but I wanted to blow my brains out with the amount of commercials.
Yeah, I absolutely. That's why even with Peacock, I upgraded instantly to the no commercials plan. Hulu have to have the no commercials plan. I mean, that's part of the reason I always whine and bitch and complain about the fact that I'm paying more money now for my TV content than I ever did when I had cable. But part of that is because whenever one of these services has the no ads option, I always get the no ads option. So that's also why it's a little jarring when I do see the ads. All right, next up. Cody Hunt Films writes, sorry I sent the same question in twice. I remember, yeah, you did that the other day. I was drunk when I submitted it the first time and I couldn't remember or find the receipt, so I wrote the second again. No problem, Cody Hunt. I appreciate you giving me that update, though. Thanks for sharing, man. I was drunk when I wrote it the first time. All right, Wes Maurer writes, John, this might seem insignificant, but I was rewatching Endgame and noticed when Tony was trying to figure out time travel, he tells Friday to run one last sim in the shape of a Mobius strip. Just thought it was an interesting connection to Loki. I don't think there's any connection to Loki whatsoever. I mean, yes, he did do that, but I don't think there was any hidden connection or subverted kind of thing there. I honestly don't even know that when they were writing up Endgame, you know, literally 3 years before the movie came out, I don't think Loki was even on the draft table at that point. So I don't think there's any connection. But it's still an interesting little thing to find there, Westmeyer, because I didn't even think about that. Rob, do you think there's any connection there between the reference Tony made and the Owen Wilson character in the Loki show?
I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily think so. I think we're look, we want to have everything be interconnected, but sometimes a new character is just a new character. Then again, I could be wrong.
Yeah. All right, next up, we got Jordan writes, I think it would be cool if Pixar made a spin-off show about The Incredibles about Frozone. I completely agree. I think it would be cool, especially with Samuel L. Jackson reprising the role. P.S. I think it's cool that Frozone needs to be hydrated in order to use his power. Yeah, that makes sense. Rob, I'll tell you what, no word of a lie. No word of a lie. Whenever, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but most of the time, if I'm ever in the house and I can't find something, and Ann will be another, if I yell it to Ann, hey, Ann, do you know where such and such is? There'll be a pause, and Ann almost every time, and she thinks it's just as hilarious every single time, will yell out, where is my super suit? Like, she'll just yell that out from another room. Like, woman, where is my, she'll yell that out at me. And it's still one of my favorite moments and lines from any Pixar film. Woman, this is for the greater good. Greater good. I am the greatest good you will ever have. It's just one of the greatest moments in Pixar ever. But beyond that, the Frozone is a really interesting character. I would be completely down to see a Frozone standalone. I don't think they'll ever do it, but I would love to see it. I don't know, Rob, would you be interested in a Frozone movie? And number two, do you think it's something that could actually happen at Pixar?
Oh man, I'd love to watch a Frozone movie. The whole history of Frozone, of course. I think they could absolutely make something like that. You know,
all right.
Why not?
I'd be down. I'd totally be down for it if they would make it happen. All right, Rick Squire writes, John, I know you and Ann seldom leave the strip when you frequent Vegas. That is absolutely true. Although, you know what we do, Rob, though? Sometimes, obviously we haven't done it in a couple of years, but sometimes when we've gone to Vegas, we will venture over to Rick and we'll go to the pawn shop. We'll go to the Pawn Star shop. We've gone over and visited it a couple of times. We've seen the guys in there. That's been fun. We'll sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'll tell you, I don't care. Me and Ann, if we go to Vegas with a bunch of friends, we'll often book a VIP table at a local adult entertainment club, go to a strip club, hang out there, get hookah brought and cheap drinks, free limos, whatever. We'll do that. But yeah, you're right. We don't go off the strip too terribly often. We like to kind of stay in the resorts once we get there. Anyway, but are you familiar with Stadium Swim at the newish Casino Circa located on Fremont? I am not familiar with that at all. It's got 6 pools and a 143-foot sports screen with 14 million pixels, something that you'd like. Well, I mean, we have gone to Fremont Street. I mean, they got that. Have you ever been there, Rob, Fremont Street, where they got the big overhead digital screen?
No, I've been down to Fremont Street, sure, but I've never been to that particular place.
No, I've never heard of that place. It sounds like someplace Cody would go, though. Cody Miller would like go there in a heartbeat. That sounds great, but no, I have never, ever heard of that. 6 pools, 143-foot sports screen with 14 million pixels, something you'd like? Dude, that's absolutely something that I'd like. I might have to check that out, because when the NFL season is on and we go to Vegas, we're always looking for a good sports book or a good sports place to go and watch football on Sundays. When we're in Vegas, boom, we always looking for a good place, and we've heard some places on Fremont are good. So I might have to check that out. Rick, thank you for putting that up. Thank you for putting that up on my radar. I appreciate that. I've never even heard of it, but I might have to check that out. All right, next up. Let's see. God King Doom writes, okay, look, I know the fan cast is strong for John Krasinski / Emily Blunt for the Fantastic Four, but how come we don't talk about how perfect Michael Fassbender is for the role of Dr. Doom? Do you think the casting for Fantastic Four is locked in, or is Feige still searching? Well, again, God King Doom, I'll go back to exactly what I said the other day. You have no idea if Michael Fassbender is a good cast for that character or not, because you don't know how he's being written. Again, look at Joker. We've had 3 different on the big screen Jokers, but all 3 of those Jokers were written radically differently, and different actors matched it better than others would. Jack Nicholson would have been a terrible choice for Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but he was perfect for his Joker. So since you have no idea how, Doom is going to be written, if he's even in the first Fantastic Four, which we don't know, you have no idea if Fassbender would be a good choice for it or not. So there's that. Rob, as far as the question goes, do we think they've already cast Fantastic Four? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you and I both agree that I have no doubt they've already cast Fantastic Four. I have very, very little doubt. We may not find out for a while, but you guys got to remember, by the time they announced Ben Affleck was going to be Batman, he had signed the deal 5 months earlier. I mean, so they'll release it when they want to release it, but I have no doubt they've already cast it. Rob, so theoretically, Michael Fassbender as Doom, but do you think they've already cast this thing?
Well, I think they probably have. I think, it's the way Marvel is. They're already in active development. These films are already, they're way ahead of the game because they've got a machine in place to churn these things out, and that's part of their process. So I would imagine, yeah, they probably already have cast. But look at how long it took Oscar Isaac to officially be announced as Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I mean, he was training. We were watching videos. We knew that he was, but I think we're going to see more of it. We're going to find out. We're going to find out when the time is right. How about that?
And here's the thing. Remember, whoever they announce, like if Dr. Doom is going to be in the first one, whoever they've cast for it, just remember, they know the script. They know how this Dr. Doom is written. And you and I don't. You know, all of us fans, we don't know how he's written. So I'm just going to assume that the actor they get, as long as it's a talented actor, that's all I ask. Just get a talented actor. But if they announced a talented actor, I'm just going to assume that the actor they picked was the best fit for the role. As long as it's a good actor, and Michael Fassbender is obviously a very good actor, so I would be totally happy with it. So let's see how that goes. All right, next up, BK Dan writes, John, my theory why Loki focuses on Earth is because Loki is so Earth-centric, because he feels it is his destiny to be the God King of Midgard, i.e. Earth. Rob, a couple of questions that have been coming in a lot regarding Loki is, why are all these events happening on Earth, like the Renaissance Fair thing, the Georgia thing, all that's there, and the TVA looks human? We covered that a little bit. Honestly, I think it's as simple as it's easiest to do and the audience connects with it best. But you also had other theories. Like you had a theory about, people see the TVA in whatever species that they themselves are. Beyond that, why do you think a lot of these key events happen on Earth in the Loki show?
Well, I think, I think maybe Earth is some kind of, I mean, obviously because we humans created the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Earth is like a fulcrum point in creation. Maybe that's why all roads lead in and out of Earth. And for whatever reason, I think the Earth, let's call it a nexus point of its own in creation. And that's why so many things happen there. Maybe it's something that's unique to humanity's outlook on life or something along those lines. But I think that
to your point too, how many Infinity Stones were on Earth out of all of the universe? It's infinitesimal, the chances that one Infinity Stone would be on Earth, but there were multiple Infinity. Anyway, there's that. All right. Thanks for running that in, BK. Next up, we've got an anonymous viewer who writes, John, episode 1 of Loki, he was at court and they were telling him he had crimes against the timeline. He accused the Avengers, but he had no clue of what the Avengers did. He died before the Avengers went through time. So how can he even know his life reel ends it before that? They covered that in the show. Remember, as he was standing there with the mouth thing over him and in handcuffs and everything, he knew there were multiple time versions of the Avengers there. And he said that one line in the show, look, Tony Stark's cologne, you can tell when different colognes are being worn. Like, he just instantly knew that there were there were Avengers from the future there at the same time. So he knew all of that. He didn't have to see the film. He just knew and deduced, oh, the Avengers are doing time travel here because there's multiple versions of Tony who are around me right now. And he knew that, and they did cover that in the show. So there's that. All right, next up. Johnny5619 writes, I forgot to mention Loki was also dead for 5 years before the Avengers did their legal time travel. So I think Loki should have no clue about what they did. Again, we just covered that. Also, that dude told Loki to take a ticket. It really matters. Like it really matters if he makes it through. I still thought that was funny. So again, going back, Loki standing there in that room as he picked up the Tesseract, he became aware that there were multiple versions of the Avengers there. So he deduced that there was some time traveling going on, and they covered that in the show. But yes, the whole ticket thing I thought was hilarious. I don't care what anybody else says. I thought that whole ticket thing was great. All right, Johnny5 also writes, last one, even after this Loki seizes the moment, he accidentally killed his mother, realizes, even after this Loki sees the moment, sees the moment he accidentally killed his mother. He doesn't remember it happening, proving again he should not know the events of what happened with the Avengers. And again, we've already covered that. It was explained in the show about why he knew there were time-traveling Avengers there. So that part was all covered. All right, CC and More writes, hey, John, hate to be that guy, but you're wrong about Supergirl's cape being CGI. It was designed by Edna Mode. That's why she didn't have a cape. Of course, a little bit of an Incredibles inside joke there. Remember, no capes. Remember, what were some of the names of the heroes she mentioned?
Oh, I can't remember.
Remember Typhoon, and they go through that montage of all these different heroes getting killed because they had capes. No capes. I love that. Thanks for the reference to that, CC. All right. Elena writes, one of two. Hey, John. Yesterday revisited one of my dad's favorite movies, Rocky 1. He recently passed away. I'm not a boxing fan. What struck me is the story of the poor working class struggles, something we rarely see today except in older movies. It's very gritty, realistic men working in factories and the docks. Adrian works in a pet shop. People struggle. I also think the movie is very much a love story too, although it's remembered for its boxing. Your thoughts on gritty working class movies? Well, I mean, Rob, gritty working class movies are still very much a very strong and popular staple. I mean, you can argue that In the Heights, I mean, besides being a musical and a song and dance number, is about working class struggling people trying to make ends meet. I mean, that happens a lot. And by the way, Elena, it is wonderful how movies, I always love this, Rob, how movies create additional bonds in our relationships. Like the very fact that you have this movie now, and you'll always, even if your dad has passed away, and full condolences to that, by the way, there's always going to be a piece of him with you whenever you have this movie. Whenever you watch that movie, there's going to be a piece of him with you. That's one of the things that I absolutely adore about the movies themselves. And Rob, a lot of people forget that first Rocky movie. It in many ways, like the first Rambo movie, First Blood. First Blood was completely different than all the Rambo movies that came afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And Rocky was correct me if I'm wrong, it was a Best Picture. Did it win Best Picture? I know it got nominated for Best Picture. I can't remember if it actually won.
Rocky?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won Best Picture.
It won Best Picture. Stallone got nominated for Best Screenplay. Because he actually wrote it as well. Like, it was just a wonderful movie, but yes, very, very different than Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 or Rocky 5, but it's a special movie. Rob, as you look back on that Rocky film, like, what were your thoughts on the original Rocky? And what do you think about the notion of like working class movies and movies and shows today highlighting the struggle of the working class?
Oh, I think that, well, it's an inherently interesting genre or kind of a story because we can all relate. You know, all of us are that person, unless, you know, you're born with a silver spoon in your wazoo, which most people weren't. But so it's the struggle of America. It's the struggle of people all over the world. That's what the working class is, you know. And a guy like Rocky, he didn't want to go to the moon. He gets caught up in this idea of fighting, and he's like, my God, I can make something of myself in my own neighborhood. You know, he's not looking to change the world. He's just looking to change himself. And I think that's inherently something we can all relate to. And Rocky was done so beautifully. You know, you from people forget Rocky was like he was collecting for the mob, like in that movie.
Yeah,
you know, he was.
And by the way,
go beat people up if they didn't pay the mobsters.
By the way, going over to it here, it was nominated for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Academy Awards. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Editing. Stallone was nominated for Best Lead Actor, and Stallone was also nominated for Best Screenplay, written directly for the screen. So he's Sylvester Stallone, people forget, is an Academy Award nominated screenwriter. Burt Young was nominated. You know, Paulie was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Talia Shire was nominated for Best Lead Actress. Burgess Meredith was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Mick, get him, Rock! I used to love Mickey. That thing was like, it was an Oscar movie. It was an Oscar darling movie. It's weird to think about that today. When you think about Rocky, which is not how it's considered or thought about anymore. Anyway, listen, Rob, we've taken you overtime again today. Thanks a lot for being here, man, and bringing your perspective to everything. Great job today. But in the meantime, where can people follow you? And are you allowed to share the information that you and I were talking about yet?
I can't yet.
Okay, so we'll keep that quiet
shortly.
But where can people follow you and your adventures online?
You can find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett. Find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, or of course, find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
All right, dude. Great job again today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one, man.
All right. See you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, but we still have some time here, so let's keep going through more of your questions, shall we? Next up, we have got Corey, who writes, one of two. Hey, John and Rob, just missed Rob. First to Rob, I see the sticker on your mic from a local artist in Rochester, New York, and have wondered, what is your connection to my hometown? I unfortunately just missed Robert there. Just missed Robert, so sorry about that. Second, I have a question on Loki. In the show, Loki describes the reset charge as something that resets time back to how it should be. So why would sending the reset charges to certain places ruin the timeline? What did the TVA have there that didn't belong? We don't know. We don't know yet. Right now, we don't know why the variant sent those things through. Even after last night's episode, we still don't know why the variant sent those things through. I mean, there are theories we have, but really none of the theories that we have are built on any actual information we have. And very frustratingly, the newest episode of Loki didn't give us any more information. But again, we'll talk about that in our Loki open spoiler discussion a little bit later today. So that's a good question. I am sure we will get answers to that as the show progresses. We are now at the halfway mark of Loki. We've only got 3 episodes left. So hopefully we're going to get some answers to that, and I'm sure we will, and hopefully sooner rather than later. All right, thanks for writing that in, Corey. Next up, Little Rico writes, hello, John. I just came across this movie called No Sudden Move. I saw it had 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Have you seen it? I've never even heard of it. I also saw Brendan Fraser is in it, and I'm a huge fan of his, probably one of my favorite actors of all time. I really like Brendan Fraser, and I hope he makes a resurgence at some point. I really do. I also love his robot in Doom Patrol. I love him in Doom Patrol. You don't get to see him very much in Doom Patrol. It's always just his voice that you hear, but I do like him a lot in Doom Patrol. But nope, I've never heard of the movie. Probably a very, very small film that it says it's got 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. I'd be curious how many reviews it has. Like, does it have like 8 reviews? Or I'm just not sure. But no, as of right now, I've never heard of the film. Never heard of it. So if you guys have, jump into the comments and let Little Rico know what you think about it. All right, next up. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, it's cool seeing Keaton back at it as Mr. Wayne, but wonder when we'll see Affleck spotted on set. Hopefully sooner rather than later. The only photos I see of him recently are with Jenny from the block in LA. Yeah, that's what did they call that again? What was the nickname for the Ben Affleck Jennifer Lopez relationship? It wasn't Ben Lowe, was it? No, it wasn't Ben Lowe. I can't remember. You guys in the live chat, what was the hyphen? Benifer. Thank you. Mark Newman put it in first. Benifer. So I guess Benifer is a thing again. I guess I can take my headphones off. Benifer is apparently a thing again. Everybody else is writing out. Marcus, Jesse, Southtown, Paco, Chipolta, Jeremy, Nori, everybody's saying Benifer. The Benifer thing is back. Yeah, listen. I'm going to tell you too, I am not 100% sure. I am not 100% sure that Ben Affleck is even going to be in it. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm not 100%. I understand that he is. But I am not 100% that he's going to be there. So I don't know. Now, unlike the Michael Keaton thing, I do believe if Ben Affleck is in it, it will probably be very, very, very small role. Very small shot or scene. Kind of probably reminiscent to his appearance in Suicide Squad. That's my guess. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. All right. But of course, Ben is my favorite Batman. All right. Next up, Boris writes, this is Les Grossman. Who is this? This is a Flaming Dragon. Okay, Flaming Dragon. Fuck face first. I want you to take a step back and literally fuck your own face. Tropic Thunder is one of my absolute favorite comedies. Glad to hear you're a fan too, John. I am. Listen, I like Tropic Thunder very much. And we were talking about Les Grossman on the show the other day and whether or not they should do it. Listen, you do a Tom Cruise, Les Grossman movie. I will go back to the olden days of camping out in line at the movie theater to see it. That's how much I would want to see that movie. I don't think they're ever going to do it. I think they've moved beyond that. I don't think they have any plans to do it. I don't think they will do it. But yes, I want that movie badly. I want it so badly. His character in Tropic Thunder is so damn funny. I absolutely love it. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Boris. Next up, Ryan Lohner writes, some other people have talked about Loki being gender fluid in the comics. In fact, he was even that way in the original Norse myths, where he's actually the mother of Thor's horse. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be in the MCU, but it would be awesome. Yeah, listen, it is funny how sometimes people want showrunners and filmmakers to draw more from the comic source until it's something that they don't want from the comic source. And then they don't want them to touch it, right? But yeah, there is, listen, whether you go into the original mythology or even to the comics themselves, there's a lot of wacky stuff connected with everybody, but Loki in particular, right? So it all depends on which stuff they decide to touch on, Ryan. So that's a good observation. Okay, next up, we've got Anonymous, who writes, I just watched Kevin Hart's movie Fatherhood. We were talking about this the other day. I gotta say, I did not expect him to pull off that kind of heartfelt performance. You still got the classic Kevin Hart comedic personality, but also tugged at the heartstrings a good bit. I enjoyed it. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Kevin Hart just had a new movie drop on Netflix called Fatherhood. And it had kind of a 3 Men and a Baby vibe to it a little bit anyway. I didn't particularly think the trailers were any good. Although I was and am fascinated about the idea of Kevin Hart trying to expand. Of course, he did that one film with Bryan Cranston, the remake of the French film. But seeing Kevin Hart now trying to expand himself a little bit and getting a little bit more into the dramatic, that's interesting to me. Not going to lie, the trailers didn't appeal to me, but I will probably check it out at some point. But I'm glad you saw it, Noms, and thank you for giving me the recommendation. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I might have to check it out sooner. All right, next up. Where are we at? Ben Rayner writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John, hope all is well. All is well, Ben. Thank you for asking. I just wanted to give a shout out to a top 10 cab movie for me that celebrated its 30th birthday yesterday, Monday. The Rocketeer. I love this movie. Campbell, Connolly, Dalton, directed by Johnson. And I love this movie. Cheesy, fun, action, funny, just a great time watching. Also, first movie I saw Dalton in before Bond, so he'll always be a villain to me. Anyway, love this movie. What are your thoughts on it? Have a good one and bring on the filthy. All right. First of all, happy birthday to the Rocketeer. I'm not a big Rocketeer fan. Now, before you start screaming at me, I don't dislike the Rocketeer. Okay, I do not dislike the movie, all right? I think it's a fine movie. But I have got friends of mine, Ben, that like you, completely love Rocketeer. Like are obsessed with it. Actually, a friend of mine, Marilyn Vance, was the costume designer for Rocketeer. Was the Rocketeer. Rob has Hot Toys of the Rocketeer. And I think it's a perfectly fine movie. If there are only two camps of people who dislike Rocketeer or like Rocketeer, I'm in the camp that likes the Rocketeer. But I don't think it's all that special. And yeah, I can feel it. I can feel the heat coming off the internet right now. People getting mad at me for not saying, how dare you only like that movie, John? You need to love. I don't love it. I think it's fine. I think it's a good little movie, but it doesn't have that place on like the iconic list for me. But I know a lot of people do. And I love it. And if you love it that much, Ben, that is awesome. I just, I don't as much. That's all. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Ben. Next up, Miguel Zayn writes, hey, John, I just saw Cruella the other day. I really like Cruella. I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun, engaging. The set, the costuming was amazing. The set, the costume, and cinematography was great. If the Oscars were next week, Stone would have 2 Oscars. Thoughts? What do you think the sequel will tell? Thanks. Yeah, so I liked Cruella very much. I was really pleasantly surprised by it because I didn't have high expectations for it. So I was pleasantly surprised by it. Costuming, the visuals, the set design, beautiful. Absolutely beautifully done. It's not going to be, I'm anticipating it's probably not going to end the year in my top 10 list, but I still liked it very much. If the Oscars were being handed out today, do I think she would win that Emma Stone would win her second Oscar? I don't know. Personally, I would give, if the Oscars were this moment, I would give the best lead actress. I'm not lying. I'm not being facetious. I would personally give the Oscar for best actress to Emily Blunt right now for A Quiet Place 2. I just think her performance in that is insane. Insane. But I would definitely nominate Emma Stone for best actress. It was great, but I don't know. We'll see when we get to the end of the year, but Emma Stone was fantastic in it. Absolutely was. All right, next up. We go to Tron. Right. So it sucks that you didn't like F9, but since we all know there will be an F10, obviously there will be, and obviously Vin Diesel and especially Tyrese watch the John Campea Show, what do you think the next film needs to do to improve to be better? Also, what do you think will be the opening weekend number for F9? Well, we were just talking about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, look, I am everybody knows I didn't like Fast and Furious 1, 2, or 3. I got on board with Fast and Furious in 4, and then I loved 5, and I loved 6, and I loved 7, and I really liked 8. I didn't love 8, but I really liked 8. I liked it a lot. So I have been on the Fast and Furious train for a long time, and I was so excited about seeing Fast 9. And here's the best way I know how to describe it. Okay. Remember, we were just talking about Tropic Thunder. There is a line from Tropic Thunder that Robert Downey Jr. says, and I'm just quoting the movie. Don't get mad at me for using this particular language. I'm just quoting the movie, okay? And you guys know what I'm going to say. Where Robert Downey Jr. in talking to Ben Stiller says, you never go full retard, is what he says, right? Never go full. Like, go this much, go this much. One of the things that I appreciate about the Fast and Furious franchise is that they embrace, or especially around Fast 4, they started to embrace the ridiculousness of it, right? They started to not only acknowledge the ridiculousness of a bunch of the stuff they were doing, but they actually embraced it. And once they embraced it and kind of identified this is kind of what we are, it really, really worked. And I, for one, appreciate some of the ridiculousness. I actually really appreciate a lot of the ridiculousness in Fast and the Furious. But when I walked out of Fast and Furious 9, all I could think of was that line from Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. They went full ridiculous. Don't go full ridiculous. And it's hard for me to really define why I dislike Fast 9 so much. And you just got to see it for yourself and you'll get what I mean. I mean, and you may very well really like it. And I hope you do. Like, I'm not one of these people that if there's a movie I don't like, I need other people to not like it too. No, I hope you like it. I hope you like it. I'm sure some of you will. And I hope that you do. I hope you have a good time. But for me, it was like Robert, in talking about the ridiculousness, like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, don't go full R word. And I felt like I love that the Fast and Furious franchise embraces the ridiculousness, but I just hear Robert Downey Jr.'s voice in my head saying, but don't go full ridiculous. And Fast 9 just goes so absurd and so that it becomes dumb. There's a part where you become so absurd that you cross that line from fun to dumb. So here's the line, fun on this side, but you just go full ridiculous and it just becomes stupid. And instead of smiling and laughing along with the screen, I found myself like putting my face in my hands and just rolling my eyes and going, oh God, this is just so bad. This is so bad. There's literally a scene where Vin Diesel is fighting 30 guys by himself. He's fighting like 30 guys by himself, where he literally grabs chains and single-handedly pulls the roof down to kill everybody. Vin Diesel, non-superpowered character, has these big chains and he grabs them and he literally pulls the building down to kill the people around it. And I'm just like, really, Vin? And again, maybe it's because I like the Fast and Furious franchise so much, and maybe it's because I am such a big fan of Vin Diesel, that it really disappoints me when I see like really dumb stuff like that happening. It just makes me go, really? Really, you doing that? You're doing that? And yeah, again, look, it doesn't matter. I really love Fast 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I'm going to look forward to 10. Even though I don't like 9 at all, I'm going to look forward to 10. But what do they have to do? You're asking the question, you know, since Tyrese and Vin watch this show, what would my thing be about what do you need to improve? Just take a step back. Don't go full ridiculous. Get back to that great balance you had in 5, 6, and 7, where you had the ridiculousness, but it was in proportion. You didn't go full ridiculous. You know? Because 9, they just went, F it. Let's just make everything completely absurd and ridiculous. Like absolutely nothing is even in the slightest way remotely believable. Because it's when you have that balance where, yeah, that's completely preposterous, but there is elements in there that are kind of believable, and your imagination is that, but this just went full absurd. Again, you guys will see it, and again, I hope you guys love it. I think there will be a lot of people that love it. There are a lot of colleagues of mine, other film critics or whatever, who saw it, and they say they liked it a lot, and I'm like, okay, but great. Film is subjective. And just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. And I hope it does work for you. But that's just, if you're asking me what do I think they need to do for F10, just step the ridiculousness back a little bit. Give a little bit more room to, there's a little bit of imaginary plausibility in what's happening here. Bring that back like you did in 5, 6, and 7, and I think it'll sing. I think it'll sing. That's me, though. All right. Next up. That was Tron. Next up. David Baker writes, do you feel Loki episode 2 was a conditioning experiment by Marvel, having a physical character physically interact with a cartoon, Ms. Minutes, for the first time ever to gauge potential future things like Spider-Ham or other possible uses? No, I think they had that in there because they thought it was a good part of the story. You know, again, you can see I've got to, let me lower my mic here. There's Ms. Minutes right there. I got Ms. Minutes back there. I think they had that in there because they thought it was a fun thing to have as a part of their story. I don't think it had anything to do with, we put that in as a test to see if we can put Spider-Ham in. No, they know if Spider-Ham or doing something like that can work or not. I think they literally put that in because they thought it would be a great scene. I think we're going to see more of Miss Minutes moving forward, and they thought people would enjoy it and it would make the episode better. But that's exclusively why I think they put that in there. That's my take on it at any rate. All right, next up. Let's see, where are we at? That was David Baker. Next up, Caleb writes, over under, where do we go? Oh yeah, over under 60% that we get Dune trailer 2 by August 1st. That's 2 months before the new release date, and WB probably wants to play it before Suicide Squad and Reminiscence. Oh, I'll go over 60%. Yeah. I actually think within the next 2 weeks. I'm thinking within the next 2 weeks we will get a new Dune trailer. But by August 1st, I would actually set the over under at 85%. So still a little bit of a chance we don't get it, but I would honestly set it at like 85%. That's where I would have it right now. All right, next up. DJ Tater Skins writes in, part 1, John, Excited for Michael Keaton as Batman in The Flash and hopefully beyond. He's always been my second favorite Batman next to Christian Bale. Played right, Batman Beyond could be an epic new trilogy. Great for DC. Thoughts? I don't. I think, I don't, I know there's all this movement for Batman Beyond. I never thought Batman Beyond was very good. It only lasted a couple of seasons. It doesn't have, but a lot of people think of Batman Beyond very romantically. I don't have a lot of interest in it. Now, look, that being said, anything, that's a little Catherine Hahn from Anchorman for you. Anything with the right idea and the right script and the right director and the right cast executed right will work. Look at the Lego movie. The Lego movie is a preposterous idea for a movie. That's not a good idea. A movie about plastic toy building blocks is not a good idea. But guess what? That movie's awesome because they came up with a great concept for it. They got the right script for it. They executed it beautifully, and it ended up being a delightful, wonderful, entertaining film that I still go back and watch at least once a year. You could make a movie about Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone. Right? Remember that? Felipe, the sentient dancing microphone? Here he is. It's a stupid idea, but if you come up with the right concept, with the right script, and the right director, anything can work. Could Batman Beyond work? Absolutely it could. You get the right concept, you get the right execution, you get the right director, you get the right screenplay, and you pull it all off. It could be phenomenal. Is this something that I would greenlight? No. But can it be great? Yeah, it absolutely could be great. Because anything could be great if done right. And if they decide to do Batman Beyond, I'll be pessimistic about it. But I was pessimistic about the Lego movie. Look how that turned out. Pretty damn good. And that was what could happen to Batman Beyond. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, next up. Let's see. DJ Taterskins also. Oh, that was part 2. Sorry. Have you seen Star Wars fan film? I've seen many Star Wars fan films. And now new series Bucketheads. It's done from the perspective of the Imperial Army, and it's about a group of stormtroopers after the second Death Star explodes. Great production value. It's so good. No, I've never heard of that one. Never heard of that one or seen that one. Of course, there's a friend of mine that you guys will see pop up in the live chat a lot, or you'll see him submit questions once in a while. His name's Kevin Rubio. And Kevin created the greatest fan film of all time. Now, he's done a lot of other creative work too that's been very good. Tag and Bink and all that kind of stuff. Many great things he's done in his career. But when you talk about fan films, there is one fan film. A lot of great fan films out there, but there is one, the truly at the top of the Mount Olympus of fan films of all time. That fan film is Troops, which is a play on Cops. Remember Bad Boys? Remember Cops? So he did Troops. And it, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion today, still stands as the greatest fan film ever made. It is the gold standard. I honestly think why the popularity of fan films caught on so much, because there were fan films before Troops. But I think it was Troops that really raised the bar and got a lot of people going, we could make something like that. And it really elevated fan films after that. So I've never heard of this one, but you clearly like it, so it's probably pretty good. But if you guys have not seen Troops, I got to remember Kev. I don't want to date Kev or anything like that, but it's got to be at least 20-something years ago that he made Troops. It's got to be at least 20 years, maybe longer. But go on YouTube, search for Troops and watch it. And just listen to the little dialogue. There's just the little dialogue interaction between the troopers and everything. It's adorable. I love it. All right. Last question of the day, guys, and then we are out of time here today. This one comes to us from Steve Rogers, who writes, "Hey, John, keep up the great work, man. Thank you. Thank you for the hard work. My question is, do you think Loki is the best Disney Plus show so far? Not after watching episode 3. Or is it too early to rank it above the others? I love the detective aspect of this show and Owen Wilson. So clearly this came in before today's episode dropped. But listen, even after episode 2, I would have, if you had asked me this before I saw episode 3 a few hours ago, I still think I put the first 2 episodes of Loki above the first 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I think I would still have the first 2 episodes of WandaVision above Loki. But I'm loving Loki. The newest episode notwithstanding, I am loving Loki. I love that the whole detective aspect, the time-traveling detective caper sort of feel to it, blah, 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 blah. Loving it, but I would still put the first 2 episodes of WandaVision over the first 2 episodes of Loki. Still have 3 episodes to go. Let's see if it finishes strong. Because I thought the last 3 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier were the best 3 episodes. I hope that's the same for Loki. But I'm really liking it. Last night's episode notwithstanding, I'm really, really liking it, but I would still put the first 2 of WandaVision above it. So that's my kind of take on that. All right, guys, listen. There's still a few more questions to come from Oli, Sako, Dot for Cash, and a few others. Do not worry. I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later today, and we will get through all of the remaining questions that are then. We've been doing a lot of companion videos lately, and we're pretty much all caught up. So we've only got a few more here to go. So we will get all caught up in that. And also, guys, do not forget, let me see if I can bring this up here. I think I can. That a little bit later today, we have our Loki episode 3 open spoiler discussion. That's going to be at 4 p.m. today, 4 p.m. Los Angeles time. So that's 4 hours from now. I'll let you guys figure out what time that is in your time zone. I hope you guys will come and join us for that as we discuss the things we liked and the things we didn't like. I got a few things to say about that, about Loki episode 3. I hope to see you guys there. All right, guys. Thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for bringing his glory and goodness. Special thank you to all you guys who sent in these live questions. Number 1, because he gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. All right, guys, in the meantime, stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.